We're the last day of summer.
Oh, we have another week.
I'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting of Tuesday, September the 10th, 2013. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent this evening. Mr. Jones. Mr. Rogers. Ms. Simon.
I'm here.
Mr. Greenspan. Mr. Miller. Mr. Brady. Mr. Germana. Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conley. There is a quorum.
I might entertain a motion to mark Ms. Conwell's absence as excused.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Gallagher to excuse Ms. Conwell's absence. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll mark her excused, and we anticipate that Mr. Rogers will be here. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For a moment of silence, we'd like to offer our deepest condolences to our colleague Dale Miller and his wife Carol and his family for the loss of his father, Leonard. Leonard was with us for 99 and a half years. And his loss was truly very touching to the family, but he lived an extremely long life, made a great contribution to the city of Cleveland and to the state of Ohio, and he will be deeply missed. I'd also like to acknowledge that we learned today that Marty Sutnick passed away. As many of you know, Marty ran the blind stand at the old courthouse for many, many years. Marty was well loved by those who stopped and shopped with him, so he will be missed. Marty is survived by his wife Sherry and their children David and Audrey, and will pass along additional information when we receive it about his services. All right, moving on to item 5. Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
Madam Chair, there is no public comment related to the agenda this evening.
Item 6, approval of the minutes. The minutes of the meetings of August 27th, 2013, Committee of the Whole, appearing in page 9, and August 27th, 2013, a regular meeting, appearing on page 12, are in your minutes. If everyone has had an opportunity to review those minutes, we will entertain a motion to adopt them as circulated.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Germain and seconded by Mr. Brady. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved, and we can acknowledge the presence of Mr. Rogers. I don't have any announcements this evening, and Mr. Fitzgerald is not present, so if he does come in and has any messages from the county executive, we can entertain him when he comes in. Moving on to item 9, committee reports and consideration of motions of council for second reading adoption under suspension of the rules. These are items that have gone to committee, and we need a motion to entertain to suspend Rule 9D, which would suspend the third reading.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule.
Second.
A move by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germain to suspend Rule 9D. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. We can proceed with item 0025.
Motion number 2013-0025, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of David Crampton to serve on the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
Adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rogers and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Ms. Conwell is not here. Did anyone else have to make a report on that? I believe I was at the hearing with Mr. Crampton. He presented his credentials, and they seemed very well qualified. So it's been recommended by the committee that he be confirmed. Any discussion on this matter? Is it reappointment? I'm sorry. Okay, is any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to Mr. Crampton, I'm sorry. Item 0027.
Motion number 2013-0027, a motion confirming the county executive's reappointment of Matthew A. Charbonneau to serve on the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for the term ending March 31st, 2016, and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Mr. Rogers. All right, any comment on this? This is a reappointment for Mr. Charbonneau. Any comments or concerns about him? I believe he was very well qualified and discussed his interest in the Cuyahoga County Arts and Culture Board. We did have a lot of discussion regarding the Arts and Culture Board, and we may have them come in the near future and discuss their presentations and how they make decisions, just for the information of the board. And they also are willing to meet with board members and council members individually. But they provide a great deal, a lot of service, and we should probably have a presentation on them, from them in the near future. So any other questions? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to Mr. Charbonneau. All right, item 10, consideration of an ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2013-0022, an ordinance establishing a Cuyahoga County Monument Commission and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This is my proposal, and I'd like to thank Joanne Gross, who's been working on this. We've been kind of working on it for the last year and a half or so. There are a number of monuments around the county that actually we're not sure who they belong to. And so this commission would establish the rules and regulations for the placement of monuments, or if someone wants to donate a monument to us, if someone wants to put a bust or a statue somewhere on county property. We did a lot of research in a number of cities, and this is probably modeled on the Federal Commission in Washington that provides for the monument placement. Things like if you give a monument to the county, do we need some money from you to maintain it? What kind of monument? So it's still be a work in progress. So I'd like to refer this to the Public Works Committee. Item 11, consideration of a resolution for first reading and adoption under suspension of the rules. This is our biweekly budget transfers, so we need a motion to suspend Rule 9D and 12A.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Item 0196.
Resolution number 2013-0196, a resolution amending the 2012-2013 biennial operating budget for 2013 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, this item.
Do you want to move to adopt?
Let's see where we
Okay.
get.
Okay.
Okay. This item relates primarily to routine appropriations of grants, but there are two items of interest, which are items I and J, and they relate to the moves relating to the construction of the hotel project. And item I is listed as interim headquarters, and it seemed to suggest that the cost for the interim move is substantially more than we had anticipated. However, in discussion with Director When it appears that this item and the next item, item J, actually include both items that relate to the interim move and also items that relate to to the permanent move, and the director prepared a spreadsheet to provide further information about this, and I would ask if Director Tewan could come forward and discuss that for us.
We'll entertain a brief discussion on this, but I'm prepared to move to send this to committee because this is substantially more than we were told about the cost of the move. Come on.
Thank you, Bonnie Tewan, Director of Public Works. The line item is more, but I think you all have this spreadsheet in front of you. If you look to the left and the line items on the left, those are the how we got to the dollar values that you see in your fiscal adjustments. If you look to the left, the first column that says estimated as presented, these are the line items that I presented during the presentation with Jeff Applebaum. The next item that says actual to date or probable cause, keeping in mind where we started from and how we had to estimate this project. We were estimating this project not knowing where we were going to move to, not knowing what the build-outs were going to cost. So when we talk about our estimated cost, I mean, we were really shooting in the dark, basically, as far as what we were proposing to do. So now that we're getting closer, every day we're getting bid items, we're getting actual cost on what it's actually costing us. That is the second column that says actual to date or probable cost. You have an item on today's agenda for the actual cost for the lease of the space at Reserve Square. So we know that. We have an estimate of what the utilities would cost. We have an actual bid for RSI. That's $110,000. And the mover cost, we're in the process of bidding that item right now. That's a probable cost by next Tuesday. We will know what those exact costs are. And as we move down here, the biggest difference between the line items are the cost for IT services. There's some cost that Director Mowry would have incurred for the permanent move. But it's included in this line item because he has to move, for example, the server earlier rather than later. So there's a cost that would have occurred for the permanent move. It has to occur now. So it's unfair to say that it's part of the interim move when it's a cost that would have occurred anyways. So I tried to differentiate between what is a cost that would have occurred with a permanent move, take those items out, and the remaining of those dollars are pretty darn close to what our estimated cost was before.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair, Director, there was another column in the version that you emailed that got clipped off here regarding items that were overestimated. Could you explain to us a little bit about that?
So again, considering what we knew when we first tried to put an estimate together and a budget together, we envisioned hiring several temporary trades to help with the build-out, not knowing, again, where we were going to move to and what the scope of the work would be. So conservatively, we put 15 tradespeople for a total of 12 weeks, for 90 days, actually. And that was what we put in for our estimate. Because we're so close to it, and because we just now hired, I think on Monday we hired 5 temporary trades, the cost for our temporary trades is going to be substantially less than what we anticipated. So there's a cost there that we could actually remove from that budget line item if we choose to do that today, or just not utilize it and bring it back into the budget.
Mr. Brady?
Thank you, Madam Council President. I had heard earlier in the day that there was about $1 million discrepancy. Could you help me understand why some people thought that there was $1 million discrepancy, and if it's not $1 million, how much is it? And besides the fact that you were shooting in the dark, which I'm not being sarcastic, try to help me understand that better.
Okay, so there's a difference of about $800,000 if you look at the far column to the right of your spreadsheet. The difference is there was interim storage at the RTA, $175,000 for leased space at the RTA facility on Harvard. That space that we need to acquire anyways because we are vacating buildings, we're selling buildings, the Glenville site, where we have records, the Whitlatch building, which we're attempting to sell. To consolidate all of those records that we basically have all over the place, we're bringing them all together in the RTA facility. So that's a cost that we would have anyways, whether we were temporarily moving or not, because we're selling our buildings and we need to get our stuff out of there. There's about, let's see, IT engineering consultant. My conversations with Director Mallory is he bid that item out, and the bid item is about $385,000 for all the work that was in that scope. Half of that work is associated with the interim move. The other half is associated with the permanent move. So we took that cost, we separated it. That's close to $200,000. There's a IT server hosting. That, again, Director Mallory would have to move the servers and have them hosted somewhere else, not just because we're moving temporarily, but because we're moving in general. So it's not fair to say that it's part of the temporary move.
Is
to
that,
the permanent move.
Madam President, to Director Tijuana, is that the biggest part of it, IT?
Yes, I would say, yeah.
And so the absence of IT, I mean, is this, I guess the whatever you want to call it, confusion or lack of understanding between us at this point is is this the first time? This seems to have, from what I understand, just sort of showed up, and I could be wrong, but just sort of showed up in the biweekly adjustment without anybody ever explaining to anybody in the council what the adjustment was about. So here we are in a public meeting having this discussion. Should we expect more? Should we expect this to happen again, or what should we expect? Because
so as we move through our process and as we get closer to, I would say, our final move into, in July of 2014, there's going to be costs associated with that. Honestly, I don't know what they are right now. We're trying to incorporate all of our cost in the tenant improvement budget as far as the what is going into the building. This temporary move, I believe we have the majority of the cost associated with the interim move. Mm-hmm. We're getting awfully darn close, and I don't really foresee too many surprises as far as budgetary items come.
Okay. I guess I would just suggest that the council doesn't like. I don't like to be surprised by figures changing dramatically without there having been some kind of a process where the council was informed why. Particularly. As we look at this, the one way to maybe handle it a little bit differently is to, there's a cost code associated with the interim move that we might want to divide that up even further into not just the interim move, but final moves and what all of those costs are. So there might be a way to drill down to those cost codes even more. All right, thank you.
Ms. Huon, we made a decision for this temporary move based on figures that were given to us. And now the figures are different. And a little bit of communication would go a long way. because all of a sudden we get this biweekly adjustment, and it's another, $1 million or so. And you've led us down the garden path to the extent that we started the move, so it's kind of hard all of a sudden to say, well, now, we don't want to approve the funds. But as Mr. Brady said, a little bit of communications to us to tell us that, that this is what the figures are going to be.
Right.
I'm not prepared to vote on this. I'd like to send it to committee, because I'm just not satisfied that we are getting the correct picture here.
If I may,
Yeah.
the costs have not changed.
What do you mean the cost has not changed? You told us $1.5 million, and now it's almost $2.5 million.
And again, as I explained, close to 800,000 of those costs are for the permanent move and not for the interim move. The costs for the interim move are estimated at 1.2 million as opposed to 1.1 million. So the costs are the same for the interim move. Nothing has changed there.
Mr. Schrein?
Thank you, Madam President. At least what I'm seeing is we're looking at about a $70,000 increase off of what your forecasted was at this point on the interim move. Is that what you're tracking right here?
That's correct. And if you look even at the final line item, we in the 1.2 million, we included a contingency.
Where the
item.
communications is failing, and I think that you had alluded to the possibility of breaking the moves down into multiple components. And I think that would bring clarity for this board to make sure that you're tracking the interim move with its dollars back to the numbers you provided to us.
Mm-hmm.
Other moves that are going to be required, irrespective of whether it's an interim move or the permanent move, like the servers, are going to have to be moved. And I'm sure that it didn't make any difference whether we move the servers today, tomorrow, or in July of next year. I see some head shaking back there from Mr. Mowry, that was going to be a cost. It just so happens it got accelerated into this change for appearance's sake, so it looks as though it's part of the interim move, when in reality it is a move that was all forecasted. And is it possible for Mr. Rubino to actually break these down into its subcomponents so we can be tracking these as to each one, so that when you hit that threshold point of what the interim move quote was to this body, we would know. And right now you're telling us at minimum we're about $70,000 over, or at least tracking at $70,000 higher than where you were. But you're also telling us that you're going to save us some of that 90 days worth of temporary labor too, which maybe will be even an offset, if I'm understanding what your testimony was.
True. And is there a question for Mr. Rubino?
It was more of a question for you
Okay.
to work with Mr. Rubino to
Right.
make sure that you provide us with the tools so that there's no guesswork. Right now, what has happened is you've lumped, I think, numbers of an interim move in with what was ultimately going to be a permanent move for things like the server and putting those into a secured location.
Correct.
That was going to happen.
Yeah, correct. When
We're not going to get a second move for servers. Is that correct?
Madam President?
Mr. Miller?
Along the same lines as what Councilman Schron just said, I think the fact that on item I in this resolution, it says capital projects, future debt issue, and then it's listed as index code CC 768234, labeled interim headquarters, and I think it just naturally led to a conclusion that all of that money related to the interim move, whereas as what you're explaining to us now, $800,000 of it did not, which would get the numbers much closer to what we had been anticipating, and I think that's part of where the problem came from.
I think the problem comes from just very poor communications, that just a walk across the hall to tell us some of these things would go a long way.
Madam President, just a question, I guess, to you. Are you sending this to committee? have some
I would like to
questions.
send it to committee. Now, if people are satisfied they're willing to vote on it tonight, we can,
I have questions, but if you're going to send it to committee, I'll reserve the questions to committee.
Madam Chairperson, since I spoke before, I personally don't see any reason at this point to send it to committee. As Councilman Miller, explained, it wasn't clear, except that there was a large difference, and it wasn't clear why. And it's just, we like to deal with these things in committee instead of in informal council sessions when it's a lot messier and we've got other things to do. But considering what you've said, I would just ask you to keep an eye, keep this in mind in the future so we don't have the same discussion again a month from now or 2 months from now.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shrine?
And I would follow my colleagues, and I'm comfortable voting on it this evening, if there's a commitment that we have a breakdown of tracking these dollars as they go through, because that way we can be following it right along. And if something like Mr. Mowry accelerating the pace of the servers going to a different room, tell us that. I mean, we knew that's going to ultimately be a cost of doing business. It just so happens that you've commingled it with the interim move, and it looks like it's associated with an accelerated cost.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Germana?
Madam Chair, thank you. At the time, we knew that this whole idea of the hotel and everything was on the fast track. And given the fact that they really didn't have time to go out and get estimates, but you gave us an estimate of what you thought. And so notwithstanding the communication situation, that's understandable. I mean, we could have had better communication, but I think that given all the uncertainty that you had, the estimate came in pretty close. So I'm prepared to vote for this tonight.
All right, Mr. Greenspan?
All right, thank you. Not to bring up a point that'll hopefully not put the director on the front page of the Plain Dealer again, but as it relates to the permanent move cost, there was obviously a discrepancy between the $75 and $126 and change TI amount. Are we saying that part of this 812 is that $75 to $126 TI move-in cost allocation?
No, this would be over and above that, because this is being done by a separate contractor consultant than the Geist Company, who's performing the build-out for us.
Okay. So this is in addition to, so pick a number, pick $126, the $50 TI allowance in the Geist contract plus $75, $76 over, which, depending on the discussion, included IT, included all the other costs. We're saying this $800,000 is in addition to that?
So the numbers for the consolidated headquarters, there are IT costs associated with that, but it's the IT that's in the building itself. These costs are servers that exist in the Sterling building. There's adjustments that need to be made because of the move. And if you want to get into technicals, I'm going to have to phone a friend, my Director Mowry, to assist on this. But this work is not being performed by the Geist Company.
Okay, so this 800, what's the square footage of the new building?
222,000 square feet.
So this is roughly another $3 and change per square foot increase in
No,
our cost to occupy.
Keep in mind, the 800,000 is just not for server work
No,
relocation.
No, I know, it's total in. So if it's 812, 365 divided by.
Yeah, there's approximately 200,000 of that is for storage at the RTA facility.
Can we eventually get Mr. Rubino to send us a memo? He just walked out because his phone went off, to explain how he's going to track this? I mean, I
Yes.
think that's what council is particularly interested in, because things are, brought through the Board of Control, and all of a sudden, it's a whole lot more money than we were told. So I think if you do that, I think everyone will be satisfied.
Well, Madam Chair, and if you add to that, to the 126 or 75 or whatever, there are additional costs then per square foot that will be added, whether it's this number at 369 or some.
Yeah, to say that this is on a square foot basis is not true. It could be 10,000 square feet. You can't equate it to square footage. It's the cost of
Right, but total TI, when you, right, it doesn't allocate
Yeah.
that way anyhow, but.
Right.
But this, so whatever that number is, 126 square foot, is plus this. This gets added to it.
This is a
'Cause if we hadn't
separate,
moved,
this is
we-
a separate cost by a separate contractor.
Because if we hadn't, if we weren't moving, we would not have incurred this.
Well, this gets into the conversation of the relocation of the data center that is occurring also.
Well, then that goes to the point of breaking out these costs between the move and move into the new building and the move of, or consolidation of other facilities. Okay, I can ask a lot more questions, but I'm.
All right, okay. Mr. Schreier?
Yeah, I just have to disagree with my colleague, Mr. Greenspan, in regards to that, because this is the engine that's driving our IT, as if I understand it, as far as from the server side. The cost that you're allocating is like talking about the plug in this wall. Those are the costs that we're doing on a per foot basis. This plug here, what goes all the way at the other end of the plug is the server cost that would have been for upgrading our servers, whether we stayed in this building. We've been hearing from the time we walked in here that our servers and all of our technology was old. It didn't matter whether we stayed in a dog cage, no pun intended, I'm a dog lover.
Careful about those dogs.
But it didn't matter. The server cost to upgrade to finally get to where we needed to be with our technology, it was going to be irrespective of where we actually lived and spent our time.
I agree with that, and that's why I
So it's
asked-
not, you can't do, I don't see how this body can start to pick and choose when we decide to upgrade a piece of hardware wherever, regardless of where we're going to be. Yeah, that's, it
I
needed-
don't
it
disagree
needed
with
to be upgraded.
that. The point is, though, it looks like there are some other costs not associated directly with this move that would have
Not for the
occurred.
project, though, Dave. It's an upgrade of technology regardless of whether we ever moved or did anything.
Right, and it shouldn't be included in the move project, that's all I'm saying.
I think it's just, if we needed that, just tell us and we approve it. It just is kind of like, I think it goes back to communication. So I understand, we could have Mr. Rubino make sure that he keeps it, Mr. Rubino can make sure that he keeps us apprised of the various accounts and how much money is going in. And we just want to know the cost of the move. I think everybody in council wants to know the cost of the move because we made decisions based on certain figures that were given to us. And if those figures are different, we'd just like to know.
Right, and I can assure you that when my crews are working, they're billing their time to specific buildings, specific build-outs that they're doing. So we can identify all of those costs. So we have the background on how we're getting to our numbers.
And I'm telling you, if we get another one like this, that, kind of a surprise, it's going to go to committee. We're going to be asking a whole lot more questions. So we don't want any more surprises like this.
Okay.
Okay? All right, Mr. Miller, do you want to make a motion?
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Jermaine. Any other discussion?
Yes, Madam
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Director Tewan testified that there's $497,000 in here that's been overestimated. So I would like to move to amend by reducing item I by $450,000 with the allocation of the reduction between personal services, other expenses, and capital outlays to be at the discretion of the Director of Budget and Management. Does that work, Director?
All right, Jean, do you have that properly? No. Okay. I didn't think you did.
Okay, the proposed amendment is to reduce item I of the resolution by $450,000 with the allocation of the reduction among personal services, other expenses, and capital outlays to be at the discretion of the Director of Budget and Management.
Okay, is there a second? Oh, was Mr. Germanis seconded? All right, any discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The matter is so amended. any discussion then on the amended resolution? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It's adopted as amended.
I'm assuming that Mr. Rubino will get me those discretionary numbers so I can finalize the resolution.
Okay.
It is.
All right, item 12, consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2013-0197, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27992 to Specialized Construction Incorporated in the amount of $524,500 for crack sealing in connection with the countywide preventative maintenance program for the period October 1, 2013 through October 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This matter goes to Public Works.
Resolution number 2013-0198, a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 0800-123 with DDR MDT Great Northern for lease of office space located at 5069 Great Northern Shopping Center, North Olmsted, for the Auto Title Bureau Satellite Office Number 5 for the period January 1, 2008 through December 31, 2012, to assign the interest to BRE DDR Great Northern, effective January 1, 2013, to extend the time period to December 31, 2013, and for additional funds in the amount of $44,587.20, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Works.
Resolution number 2013-0199, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2013A, Steel Yard Commons Project, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5 million for the purpose of providing monies to pay costs of a project within the meaning of Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 165, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative agreement, a bond purchase agreement, a bond registrar agreement, and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
It goes to Economic Development.
Resolution number 2013-0200, a resolution accepting the rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
The Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2013-0201, a resolution authorizing an award to Woods Cove 3 LLC as purchaser and Lien Servicing LLC as servicer in the amount not to exceed $25 million for the sale of tax lien certificates, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
May I refer to Finance and Budget?
Resolution number 2013-0202, a resolution making an award on requisition number 28551 to Starting Point in the amount not to exceed $593,038 for administration of various initiatives of the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program for the Invest in Children program for the period August 1, 2013 through July 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Education, Environment, and Sustainability.
Resolution number 2013-0203, a resolution making an award on requisition number 28332 to Starting Point in the amount not to exceed $1,600,000 for out-of-school time and transition services for the period September 1, 2013 through September 30, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Education, Environment, and Sustainability. Item 13, committee reports and consideration of a resolution for second reading. Okay.
Resolution number 2013-0179, a resolution making an award on requisition number 24534 to Weston Incorporated in the total amount of $3,420,000 for the sale of various county buildings, authorizing leases in connection with said sale, authorizing the county executive to take all necessary actions and to execute all documents necessary to consummate the contemplated transactions, authorizing the Director of Public Works to administer the projects, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective in the amounts and for leases of the properties as printed on the agenda and the time periods, items A 1 through 3.
Yeah, these are for the sale of 3 buildings. They'll be on for third reading for 9/24. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading adoption under suspension of the rules. These items have all been to committee, and they are on for second reading. We need a motion to suspend Rule 9D.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germano. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 0190.
Resolution number 2013-0190, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27675 to C&K Industrial Services Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1,670,690 for cleaning and televising sanitary sewers in various communities for the period October 1, 2013 through September 30, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Germana. Any discussion on this item?
Madam President, one of the many menu of services that the county offers is televising sanitary sewers. We provide this service to various communities, and this particular contract provides supplemental support to the in-house staff that the county has providing this service. And I recommend this for passage.
All right, any other questions, discussions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Resolution number 2013-0191, a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 1100-590 with Reserve Apartments for lease of office space located at 1701 East 12th Street, Cleveland, for use by various county divisions and a department for the period October 1, 2011 through September 30, 2014, to change the scope of services effective October 1, 2013, and for additional funds in the amount of $220,003, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Germana. Any discussion on this item?
And Madam President, this resolution is an amendment to the lease agreement the county has with Reserve Apartments, LTD. It is to include additional lease space to cover the interim move of the fiscal office. And again, I recommend this for passage as well.
94.
All right, any other questions or discussions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Resolution number 2013-0193, a resolution making a Cuyahoga County 911 Consolidation Shared Services Fund Award to Chagrin Valley Dispatch Council of Governments in the amount not to exceed $330,000 for public safety answering point consolidation support for the period September 1, 2013 through December 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Adopt. Second.
Moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion on this item?
Madam President, at the last meeting, Director Cologne gave a detailed explanation as to what we're dealing with, of what I will call a labor of love of at least my committee and most possibly Director Cologne. I'm not certain, I don't want to speak for him. But I'll do another reading of some of the talking points, and correct me if I'm wrong on anything. I think we're going to be right, and this is our first step
and consolidation here in the county. It's taken a while, but we're at the end of that rainbow and the start of something new, I hope. And this project is a result of ordinance 2013-0010 that was passed earlier in the year. The ordinance continues our efforts under the 911 consolidation plan by providing financial resources to communities engaging in 911 consolidation efforts. This particular consolidation effort will reduce the number of county PSAPs by 3. Construction is slated to begin immediately. Chagrin Valley Dispatch Council currently serves approximately 13,213 citizens in Cuyahoga County. The villages of Gates Mills and the village of Highland Hills will be consolidating both their police and fire departments into existing agencies in this dispatch. After this consolidation, this number will increase the service to 16,613 citizens, which equates to an additional 18,000 phone calls per year. This consolidation will be completed. Hopefully this consolidation will be completed immediately. Additional consolidations, we hope, will be completed by first quarter 2014.
Mr. Schrein.
I'm thrilled to be voting for this and be supporting of it because I think it's an effort of communities coming together and saying, hey, where can they get the best of reducing costs and getting the maximum efficiencies out of this. And I think it's refreshing to see the leadership of these small local communities all coming together and bringing this forward as an example of how communities can come together, find a common interest, save some cost on an area where consolidation can take place, and without giving up any autonomy, but yet getting the advantages of this 911 dispatch center. And so I think it's going to be terrific. And congratulations to the folks who took the leadership role out there, also at the local community side.
And I'd just like to congratulate Mr. Gallagher. I know he's worked very, very hard on this whole area of dispatch, and he's really put a lot of time and effort into it. So I'd like to thank him for his efforts.
The committee has, and I would be remiss if, while we're patting each other on the back, Mr. Miller has been integral in many of our meetings, and I certainly appreciate his input.
All right. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Resolution number 2013-0194, a resolution authorizing a master services agreement with the Metro Health System in the total amount not to exceed $4,417,955.84 for various services for various time periods, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective in the amounts for the services for the departments and for the time periods as printed on the agenda items D1 through 4.
Yeah, okay, who moved? Mr. Germana, then we can amend it. Moved by Mr. Germana, and then who seconded it? Mr. Brady? All right, and now there's going to be an amendment on the floor.
Madam President, I'd like to introduce an amendment to Resolution 2013-0194. That can be found on page 125 of the actual legislation. In the first whereas under Section 3, we're replacing the existing dates with October 1st, 2013 through September 30th, 2015. And on page 2 of the legislation, Section 1, number 3, the same date change, October 1st, 2013 through September 30th, 2015. And I would suggest we adopt as amended.
All right, so it's been moved. Is there a second on the amendment? Seconded by Mr. Germana. Is there discussion on the amendment? Just difference of a month, a couple months in terms of starting time. All right, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. It's so amended. Any discussion on the resolution on the merits?
Madam President?
Yes.
This was heard in committee, and we took quite a bit of time on this. And this was actually presented by Mr. Merriman, who, again, this is a labor of his love, has spent quite a bit of time on this. Mr. Merriman, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to this, but as you can see, it's the master service agreement with Metro Health Hospital System. And what they're providing for us is toxicology services for the complete court, adult probation department, juvenile court division, medical services, encompasses all the medical services of the juvenile court, medical home services for the pediatric foster care program, out of the Division of Children and Family Services, and toxicology services for the Division of Children and Family Services. All very important pieces of the puzzle that helps keep not just the courts, but some of those over in Children and Family Services moving forward, keeps the community safe, our clients and our community safe, and I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Merriman, for all the hard work that you put into this. It was not an easy thing to do.
Yes, Mr. Germano.
Madam Chair, I just want to add, at the committee, I asked about how much the services for toxicology were in comparison to what the cost is for the county, and we got the memo that we're actually saving money using Metro Health as our partner. So I think that's a great benefit, and so we're getting a bang for a buck by entering into this master service agreement.
Mr. Brady?
Yes, I just wanted to add that you can look way back now on this process when it started so long ago. Really, when we just began almost 2.5 years ago, and people from Metro and the administration and several different committees were involved in a start and stop kind of a process that involved the sheriff's office, and it went on and it went this way and went that way. So I'm really glad to see that it's all come together and met the expectation that we hoped at least 2 years ago that it would. So.
Okay, any other questions, discussions? All those in favor of the amended resolution indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Resolution number 2013-0195, a resolution making an award on requisition number 28280 to Emerald Development and Economic Network Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1,383,696 for managing the Shelter Plus Care sponsor-based rental assistance program in connection with the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act for the period August 1, 2013 through July 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on this item?
Madam Chairperson, this award provides rent subsidies for over 200 rental units to house chronically homeless persons in permanent supportive housing. But the provider administers this grant, verifies client eligibility, performs housing quality inspections, pays landlords, and deals with landlord and neighbor concerns related to client stability. This is 100% funded through the Housing and Urban Development Department of the federal government, and I urge its approval.
All right, any other questions, discussions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 15, committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading.
Ordinance number 2013-0018, an ordinance enacting Chapters 507 and 508 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish the county's risk management procedures and insurance requirements, and repealing Sections 504.03C2E, 504.04D2E, and 504.16 in conformity therewith, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
At the request of Mr. Jones, I'd like to entertain a motion to refer this matter back to committee.
And Madam President, I make the motion that we refer this back to the Public Works Committee.
All right, moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Rogers to refer this matter back to the committee. I guess there's been some discussions, and there's a need for a clarification in a number of areas.
Madam President, again, at the heart of the legislation and at the heart of my intentions, along with the county, is to, and I'm going to read the word as the whereas statement says, promote the county's interest in contracting with small businesses. The county and this council and many have showed an interest to improve economic inclusion. And this legislation, in my mind, is just not a done deal. And we actively sought the input of the community, and we've had at least 2 committee meetings on this legislation. We've got a great amount of input, and just when you're at the cliff, sometimes you have someone else to yell out, "Stop." So that is what has happened. We have gotten even more input from the community, constructive input, and we are going to hold this through the standard 3 readings, bring it back to committee, deal with the concerns, gain more insight into how we can make this legislation even better, and we will move forward from there. So again, September 18th at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, we will deal with this legislation.
That goes back to committee. We need a vote? Okay, we need to vote. Well, okay, let's vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion referred back to committee. All right, miscellaneous committee reports. Are there any miscellaneous committee reports?
Person?
Yes.
It's not a committee report, it's just a reminder for those who may be interested that next Monday at 10 o'clock at Metro, going to be a kickoff of the levy campaign. Been working very hard on it. We're very well organized. We're looking forward to the county executive and as many councilmen who have the time to be able to be there and get this campaign off the ground. And I just wanted to remind everybody, 10 o'clock next Monday.
The 9th. No, I'm sorry, the 16th. Okay, now I got it. Yes, Mr. Miller.
Finance and Budget will meet at a special time next week on Tuesday, September the 17th at 3 p.m. That's to accommodate the out-of-town travel schedule of Paul Comlosi, who's going to give us the facts and figures relating to the DTAC funding mechanism legislation. And also we'll hear the Key Bank contract again, the tax rates and tax liens legislation that got sent over today, plus the bond legislation from the last meeting. So we'll have lots of work to do. Thank you.
Mr. Schwan?
Economic Development will meet on, at a special time on the 18th at 1 o'clock.
And Environment, Education and Environment will meet on the 18th at 3 o'clock.
Okay, anything else? All right, any, yes, Mr. Jamian? Yes.
Madam Chair, I know we're almost under record-breaking times, but if I could just have everybody's indulgence for just a couple of minutes. I think there's some informative things. I hope a number of veterans are out there to hear this situation, but you know, my mother is in a nursing home, and my dad served 9 years in the Navy Aviation, and the nursing home advised that there is some kind of veterans benefit. So I called the Veterans Administration and got a packet that was huge, maybe 30 pages, 40 pages. And I took the opportunity to go to our Veterans Service Commission over on Prospect, and I can't stress enough what a great service this was to veterans. So not only to veterans, but survivors of veterans, relatives. This is a great service. And while I was there as a veteran, you know, we have a great service in Cuyahoga County now, giving a veteran's card. And of course, you need the DD-214, which is your record of service. Well, I didn't have mine. I mean, it's been 43 years since I've been in the service. But Larry Amato over at the Veterans Service Administration says, I'll go ahead and take care of this as long as we're doing this. He ordered it. And then once you get this DD-214, you just go down to our fiscal office. You go in. I had this recorded, and as long as I was there, it cost me $1. And I got my veterans identification card. So it's an easy process, and it's a great thing for $1. Related to this, is this last week I went to Men's Warehouse in Strongsville to get fitted for a tux. My son's getting married in Milwaukee, and you're probably wondering how this relates to that. But I had a young man in early 20s, fitted me, so on and so forth, and then of course I had to pay for the tux. I gave him my credit card, and my credit card says CID. So I went to my wallet. I thought I was handing him my driver's license, and this young man, 20, 21 years old, looked at it, looked up, and he says, "Thank you, Mr. Germana, and thank you for your service." And I was kind of shocked, because here I thought I gave him my driver's license. So I said, hey, that is really meaningful. I've been out of service 43 years. No one's ever said that to me. I says, just for curiosity, does Men's Warehouse train you on this? And he says, no, sir, this is the first time I ever saw this ID card. And I said, well, you should be congratulated. And the moral of this story is, I think all of our veterans in Cuyahoga County should take advantage of getting that veterans card. And I just want to emphasize for those that are not veterans, that meant a tremendous amount to me. This kid didn't have to say that. And so, next time you hear about someone being a veteran, just by saying those words, thanks for your service, it means a lot. So
He didn't give you a discount, though.
no discount. But the moral of the story is, we've got the service. It's a great service for Cuyahoga County, number one. Number two, don't delay. If you've got any situation with the Veterans Administration, go to our Veterans Service
And the
office.
recording is actually free. The recording of your DD 214 is free.
It's
The dollar,
absolutely
yeah.
free. Absolutely free.
Okay, anything else?
Madam President?
Yes.
I just wanted to sincerely thank everybody for the real outpouring of support and sympathy on my father's passing, and it has been a real help to me in this difficult and meaningful time. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any public comment unrelated to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is. Ms. Tina, I'm so sorry, Tricarchi, regarding the library board.
Thank you.
Is Fran not here?
Not here.
Okay. And then after that, Reverend Pamela Pinckney will speak.
Mr. Carci was my public defender, and I wasn't on trial. I was a judge, but she was my public defender.
That's correct. Thank you last time for letting me go over a little and finish my sentences. This will be shorter. My name is Tina Tricarchi. I'm a resident of Cuyahoga County, Lyndhurst, actually. And I have a statement of 3 sentences and a 2-pronged question for you. In light of the last meeting, it is my understanding from examination of the Ohio Revised Code and of emails between county officials, including county council people, that members of this body can, in fact, make suggestions and pass resolutions regarding the Cuyahoga County Library Board. And they also play a vital role in the appointment and reappointment of this library board. So if they play that role, then they can make suggestions, cajole, ask to re-examine. They can. It is not something you cannot participate in. Also, and while I will not present a litany of examples of the literally thousands of people in Cuyahoga County, some not outside, but many of them, most of them in, who have signed our online petition and have signed our written petitions. Most recently at the Lyndhurst Home Days this weekend, we got about 500 signatures, a petition to the library board and to those public officials that have an impact and effect on them to reconsider or stop the sale of the Telling Mansion. I have a 2-pronged question. Number 1, this question is to the county council president and to each member. Is it your intention to not take any action, pass any resolution on this library board, which has virtually unfettered powers, has run amok, and has not displayed any degree of substantial transparency, which is what I believe this new form of county government was meant to do? And that's the general question, it's prong of the question. I mean, specific is, will you do anything about the Telling Mansion Library sale, which has not been made? And then the specific, I mean, the general part of the question is anyone here going to look into the pattern of ignoring the wishes of many citizens of at least 4 areas of this county in regards to what they want in regards to their library?
We appreciate your statement.
That's it? No one has anything else to tell me?
This is not a dialogue. We just appreciate your comment.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
This is a public comment, and this is not a dialogue.
Thanks.
Ms. Pinckney?
Holy Spirit, give me what to say to these your people. Good evening, everyone. For those
Give us
of you,
your name and you have
those
3
of you who
minutes.
do not know who I am, my name is Reverend Pamela Pinckney, and I use butts also, which is indicative of both of my parents, Charles and Betty. I stand before you because some of you are acquainted with me through my parents, but I'd be remiss to say to you that you really don't know me. And I do have some concerns for the agenda items when the appropriate time for me to address them will be allotted to me. Some very serious concerns. And I was late because I didn't know where I was supposed to vote. And they changed the voting site without telling me anything. I came here because I wanted to actually see what it is that you all do down here that are making decisions on my life, as well as the lives that are impacted by the walk that I take. And in so doing, I needed to let you know that I directly object, and this is not for the purpose of hurling an insult to anybody, neither to be insulted. I directly object to Ed Fitzgerald making any decisions pertaining to my life in any facet. And I say this because Ed Fitzgerald is still a defendant in one of my lawsuits, and I'm being abused by Cuyahoga County Sheriff's deputies and Cleveland Police. On the weekend of October the 8th, I merely did a good deed to come down to see about a neighbor's child. I was beat up, tortured, strapped down to the device in the county jail, stripped out of my clothes, and given a suicide blanket. And to this day, I still don't even understand why. Another occasion, I was held against my will and my rights and where I was supposed to be safe when people went in with officers with guns, social workers who told lies about me, stole my children from a school, then came in with these same officers and robbed me of my child, my baby, did not give me a lawyer, and even to today, I have sheriff deputies with my picture on flyers, generating these flyers. My home is demolished. I have nowhere to live. And some of the agencies that you're allocating funding to are exchanging money at the expenses of my being abused. I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. I'm not delusional. And I've lost not only my children. The Word of God says that I walk in my integrity. And I walk in my integrity. Thank you. I will respect your clock.
Thank you, Ms. Pinckney. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We stand adjourned.
Hey, it was sincere. It was shocking. No one's ever said that to me.